The Buddhist Council of Victoria is a community organisation, and before I get to the paper, I'll just mention something which every now and then I reflect on with great wonder, which is that our current committee has a fourfold Sangha. We have a bhikkhuni, which is Venerable Chikwang Sunim, who's Australian in the Korean tradition, and we have a bhikkhu who is Venerable Tik Phuk Tan, who is the abbot of the Quang Minh Temple in Melbourne, and we have lay men and lay women. So we have a fourfold Sangha in our committee. So, and here we have a picture of Venerable Chikwang Sunim, and this is a part of a poster series. We have a series, we have a lot of resources on this topic, which, and I'll show you some of those resources in the PowerPoint. Family violence is a significant problem in Australia and is not confined to physical and sexual violence, but also encompasses financial, emotional, and psychological abuse. It can include social isolation and economic deprivation. This problem is found across ethnic and religious groups and affects people of all ages. Governments have tried different strategies to tackle it over many years. The most catastrophic outcome of family violence is death, and intimate partner violence is a major cause of homicide in Australia. We actually have 1 woman a week dying as a result of family violence in Australia. Faith leaders were identified as potential project partners in combating family violence by the State Government of Victoria's 2015 Royal Commission into Family Violence. Recommendation 163 proposed that training packages be developed for faith leaders and communities. This training would be available for faith leaders' pre-service training as well as continuing professional development. Recommendation 165 reflected on the contents of faith teachings and asked faith leaders and communities whether any of their practices operate as deterrents to the prevention or reporting of or recovery from family violence, or are used by perpetrators to excuse or condone abusive behaviour. And this is a profoundly significant question. The state government offered 6 faith communities funding to implement a pilot family violence prevention program, and the Buddhist Council of Victoria, the BCV, was successful in obtaining funding. This is the first time in Australia that the Buddhist community has received funding for a family violence project. The pilot project received funding of Australian dollars 120,000 and ran from the 1st of July 2019 to 31 August 2021. The funding was used to employ a project officer, Jessica Wilson, who has considerable experience in social work and preventing violence against women. Associate Professor Anna Halafoff from Deakin University was employed as a consultant with expertise in gender and Buddhism. Jessica and Anna also worked closely with the Multicultural Centre for Women's Health and Professor Catherine Vaughan of the University of Melbourne in the project's development and implementation of programs and resources. The project team was guided by a BCV reference group of which I was a member. And I'm just going to keep going through some of these images. And this is a part of our poster resources. So we've got posters from all the different traditions. So this is a Venerable Jumper from the Tibetan tradition, and previously this one. if it works, I'm not going backwards. This one is Venerable Renguan from, I think, the Foguangshan Chinese tradition. And here we have Venerable Tik Fuk Tan, who is also, as I said, a committee member. The project was extended with a subsequent grant and is now in its 4th year. Dr. Pravina Rajgopal is the new project officer and will see the project to its conclusion in August 2023. But we've actually applied for more funding, so we may have another year left in the project, and it may be ongoing because this is an ongoing issue. The project's first aim was to build the capacity of Buddhist community leaders to effectively identify, respond to, and prevent family violence, with a special emphasis on violence against women, as this was perceived to be the largest problem. Buddhists from a range of ethnicities and traditions attended training and co-designed resources aimed at preventing and responding to family violence for dissemination across the Victorian Buddhist community. The project was conducted according to a participatory action research methodology. The pilot project's final report to the Victorian Department of Premier and Cabinet stated that the most significant success has been the co-design and production of culturally relevant resources for the community to build their skills in preventing and responding to family violence. The project was also informed by critical feminist scholarship on gender and religion, and gender and Buddhism in particular. Now, the technical paper by Professor Catherine Vaughan made a number of observations drawn from the literature, including that faith leaders and communities may support women experiencing violence. Women experiencing intimate partner violence often seek support from religious leaders. But on the other hand, that faith communities may condone violence against women, and faith-based beliefs may encourage women to endure extended periods of violence so as to preserve their marriage or family relationships in spite of this placing them in danger. In terms of the Buddhist community, most Buddhist archetypes of enlightenment are male, and men hold far more positions of power and privilege within the majority of Buddhist organisations than women do. And here we have Venerable Vimalananda from the Sri Lankan community. And I'll just go back to that. Buddhist teachings also denigrate female rebirth, require nuns to follow more rules than monks, and some traditions prevent women from obtaining full ordination, though, as we are happy to discover, increasingly few. The project effectively commenced at the end of 2019, and we had planned to spend a lot of time sitting in temples, getting to know both the lay and ordained communities in a relaxed and casual way. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 pandemic closed all the temples from the start of 2020, and so the project moved online. In 2020 and 2021, Melbourne became one of the most locked down cities in the world, and so the project had much more limited interaction with temple communities than had originally been hoped. In spite of that, the pilot project involved the Vietnamese Quang Minh Temple, the Chinese Yunyang Temple, the Theravada Newberry Monastery, and the Tibetan Tara Institute. A total of 151 people participated in the pilot, including 15 Buddhist leaders and 136 Buddhist community members, comprised of 127 women and 24 men. Activities of the pilot project included 2 rounds of 3 workshops for faith leaders, 6 workshops in total, and each workshop was 2 hours long and delivered by the Multicultural Centre for Women's Health in January and February 2021. These included a module on gender and Buddhism presented by Anna Halafoff. In all, 28 participants attended these workshops and 17 participants then attended a train-the-trainer session held at Kwangmin Temple. At Yunyang Temple, 15 members attended tailored training conducted in Chinese. At Kwangmin Temple, Yunyang Temple and Tara Institute, 3 dedicated outreach workers were then trained to implement programs on how to respond to disclosures and facilitate referrals. Meet and greet events were held with local specialist family violence services and other service providers such as the Victoria Police and a family lawyer at Tara Institute and Yunyang Temple. The outreach worker at Kwangmin Temple designed and delivered 3 elder abuse education sessions to 75 Vietnamese participants in Vietnamese. Finally, an online community event featured presentations by the Minister for Prevention of Family Violence and the chairperson of the Victorian Multicultural Commission, alongside prominent Buddhist leaders who all made public statements against violence against women and raised awareness of project resources. I recommend viewing the Buddhist Council of Victoria website, where you can find resources in a range of languages, including English, Chinese, Vietnamese and Sinhalese. Resources include help cards, toolkits, videos and posters. So here we've got the toolkit in English, so that's got a huge quantity of resources in it. And here's the toolkit in Sinhalese. The second iteration of the project, which commenced during COVID lockdown in 2021 and will conclude next month, this year, has had to deal with 3 out of the 4 participating temples leaving the project. It may be that after receiving the training, the leadership felt that there was nothing further to achieve. But it may also be volunteer fatigue, as attending training and participating in the project is unpaid work and yet another commitment for an already too busy Dharma centre. So I don't think you'll be able to read those cards, so they're not in full, but there's cards in, I think, 5 languages. The first new project officer, Dr. Virandi Wetawa, increased the number of materials in Sinhalese language and organised further work with the Vietnamese Kwangmin Temple. In addition, she arranged for the participation of the Nepalese community to attend 5 hours of training. The current project officer is working to include Sri Lankan temples and to develop the workshops based on their needs. It has been very difficult to get new temples involved. The current focus of the government is on reaching the younger generation, particularly young men, and we are attempting to do this via the youth-focused Dharma schools, Dharma classes, which are Sunday schools. But at the time of writing this, it is still work in progress. It can be difficult to demonstrate the need for family violence training, as involvement is voluntary and faith leaders may argue that the Dharma is already complete and covers the issue of harming others. I have countered this argument by saying that everyone can benefit from improving their communication strategies and conflict resolution skills. Additionally, any non-resident convicted of a serious crime will lose their Australian visa. But there is not a ready recognition of family violence in the Buddhist community and a reluctance to address what may be seen as a theoretical issue. But actually, after writing that, there was a terrible incident in the Sri Lankan community where several murders took place, and we've got a lot more attention now. For those who have participated, the most significant change in the Victorian Buddhist community has been the increased capacity of members and leaders to identify family violence and support members who are experiencing family violence using faith-based, culturally appropriate resources. Prior to the pilot project, there was limited guidance for faith communities and none for the Buddhist community. The Supporting Buddhist Communities to Prevent and Respond to Family Violence Toolkit, which I just showed you before, was co-designed and developed by the community to support safe engagement with people affected by family violence, as well as guidance on prevention actions. The toolkit encourages members to draw on Buddhist teachings and practices in responding to and preventing family violence. This approach has resulted in greater acceptance and less backlash than using language and concepts directly from the mainstream prevention framework, such as the Change the Story framework. In the toolkit, the BCV uses an assets-based approach to draw on Buddhist language, teachings and practices that support gender equality, such as non-violence, universal love, compassion extended to all beings, joy in the happiness of others, and a mind of equanimity for each other. The toolkit addresses issues such as the normalization of violence against women. It states, if a woman is told or believed being abused is her karma, she is likely to stay in a dangerous relationship. This belief not only increases her risk of being seriously hurt or killed, it also shifts blame from the person using violence and abuse and makes it the responsibility of the victim. Instead, we could say the victim's karma is being born in a time and society where family violence is against the law and there is help available to her. Similarly, in the do's and don'ts list, it is suggested, do address any faith-based or cultural rationalizations that may be offered or questions they may have. Use Buddhist practices and teachings to promote safe and respectful relationships and non-violence. The principles and values inherent in the Buddhist faith are largely compatible with the values underlying gender equality and ending family violence. The project has demonstrated the ability of government to engage with the Buddhist community and for the community to work together across the divisions of language, ethnicity, and Mahayana and Theravada. It has developed a significant body of resources in several languages. However, the project has some significant limitations regarding funding, the community's recognition of the existence of the problem, and the sustained interest of temples to participate in the project. Thank you.